Hello and welcome to Get Rich Slow, the podcast that challenges the conventional get-rich-quick ideology and instead explores what authentic success really means and how you can achieve it. I'm Hannah Martin, the founder of Talented Ladies Club, and today I'm joined by Amanda Fitzgerald, PR strategist and also known as the ultimate door opener, for an episode on authentic PR. So hello, Amanda.
Hi, Hannah.
Thank you very much for joining me. I'm really interested to learn from you about PR because I know as a business owner how important it is, but also how difficult it can be as well.
Yes, I mean, pitching to the press, some people have called it a black art. And I actually train people how they can use this black art to their massive advantage. And it doesn't need to be something that needs to be scary and, oh my God, I need to employ a £25,000 for a 6-month period PR agency. People can literally do it themselves. And I can help you, hopefully on today's podcast, demystify how people can actually go ahead and get their own PR.
Okay, so let's find out. But before we go ahead, I just want to ask you a question that I ask all my guests, and that is, what does success mean to you personally?
Success means me helping clients to be able to communicate what they do really succinctly and articulately so that they can attract new clients to their business. So success really is whatever you do. Most people, I would say most entrepreneurs, actually create a transformation to their clients' lives. So the more people I can help get out there, the more people are being helped in the world. So really success is being helpful.
Excellent. Good definition. So my first question, quite a basic one, probably not a simple one. What is PR?
So PR stands for Public Relations, in Spanish, Relaciones Públicas. So basically public relations, which means going out there and raising your brand. But PR is something which needs to be part of your overall marketing strategy. So you'll do things like SEO, search engine optimization. In the olden days, people would have done direct marketing. What the hell's that? That means dropping leaflets. Now it's more like email marketing or social media, talking to people, talking to their audience. But with PR, it's fantastic because you don't just talk to your audience, your followers on Twitter or Instagram. You reach so many more people, much further and much wider. So PR can mean literally what I'm doing right now. I'm talking on your podcast. You've invited me to a podcast. So that is a great PR opportunity. So thank you for that. But it can also be you breaking news if you've got a massive scoop within your local area. It can also be invited to speak on. You can be invited to speak on the radio, TV, or comment in magazines and newspapers. So really, it's you showcasing your expertise and more people discovering about you, you might have written a white paper, you might be a thought leader in the making. So it's really you sharing what you do with the world. And, and do you know what? Some people get PR and it doesn't necessarily correlate to their business, but yet they're mentioned in the press. And it's just a good brand awareness driver because it's like, oh, I didn't know that you were X, Y, and Z. And it makes more people interested in you. So it's really having a wide reach to, further than beyond, your mailing list of 5,000 people and your Twitter following and all the other people who follow you.
Brilliant. And are there more benefits? I mean, obviously I know PR is important. I do it myself. And one part of it is being found by people. But are there other benefits? I'm thinking things like authenticity and trust. So if people see you in a publication that they trust, are they going to change how they feel about your business and about you?
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, the amount of products that I've actually purchased as a result of not seeing an advert, but actually heard the author being interviewed on Woman's Hour, or even going so far as seeing an app in the Sunday Times, a bird listening app, so you can identify the bird songs, Shazam for birds. So, yes, it makes you, and because you see a journalist has actually looked at what you do and they've researched you thoroughly, because it's not an advert. And journalists don't want to do advertorials. An advertorial means it's an advert and editorial, which means you, the client, has to pay for it. This is a journalist who's got a genuine interest in you because they genuinely think that their readers, listeners or viewers will be interested in you. So it's really good because it's going to be subjective, or is it objective? I never know the right word for
Objective.
that one. Anyway, it's somebody talking about you objectively as opposed to me being, hey, I'm so amazing, I'm so fantastic, because that will be you doing your social media.
Excellent. And so if someone has no idea how to get started with PR, what are the first steps? How do they begin to put together a strategy?
So a PR strategy, if you're just starting out, I don't want people to think, oh my God, it needs to be War and Peace and it needs to be a massive document. Simply broken down, it needs to have, number one, your press hook. So what's a press hook? I'm now using industry jargon. So a press hook is really what you're going to be hanging. Just think about it visually. It's a hook. It's what you're going to be pegging or hooking your story to. So number one, what is it about you or your business that's going to be relevant or timely? So you have to know that. Number two, you need to know the target audience that you're going to be reaching. So what publications do your audience consume? When I say publications, I mean media outlets. So is it TV, radio? Where does your audience hang out? So identify 5 places, 5 outlets that you'd love to target. So it's having your press hook, having your, your audience, and then also thinking about the journalists that you want to contact as well. So, you can put down a column name with journalists, and some people say, I've got no contacts, I don't know where to go about doing it. Well, for you, Hannah, and for your listeners, I'm going to give you the most beautiful tip ever, and it's the place where you can find journalists, and it's called anewstip.com. So what you can do is you can go to this website, and then you can put in the region, the country where you'd like to find them, and the area of interest, and then you can find journalists which will be, let's say, in the beauty sector or mental health, fitness, you name it, and that's where you can find them for part of your your PR plan of action. But also the PR plan of action or the PR strategy needs to have timelines that you can actually achieve. And I want people to just break it down into bite-sized chunks, because, you do get PR agencies who work hours and hours and hours a week on you. But I know that everybody probably listening to this podcast is a business owner and very busy. And you know what? I've developed this new methodology, and it's called the 7 minutes daily PR method. You literally can pitch to the press successfully. I've got loads of clients doing it right now in 7 minutes a day. So you don't think you've got to go and do an MBA when you want to start pitching yourself.
Excellent. Okay, so start by working out their hook, and then putting together a list of publications or kind of TV shows or whatever it is, outlets they want to appear on, and then finding the journalists that they maybe can contact there. Do they need a PR toolkit? What kind of things? Because obviously a journalist might come back and want to know more information about you, might want a photo of you. Are there things that you should have ready so that you can act quickly?
Yes, so in order to act really quickly, the 2 things I say you need to have is a PR toolkit. So it's a document which it's almost like a glitzy, glammy CV, but it's a 1-pager. And I've actually got one here. I don't know whether, obviously, the podcast listeners can't see it, but it's a 1-page document, and it has your image in it. And you need to know that you can actually send, you need to have really good head and shoulders shots. If it's you, the business owner, it needs to have contact details, a small bio, okay, so small biography, outlining where you've come from, what you've done. Journalists love the human interest element. So what areas of adversity have you had to, leap through? Have you been a high-flying lawyer? You suddenly got really sick and you decided to go and start a jam-making company. They want to know these things. They want to know what makes you tick, what's interesting, what makes you stand out from all the other life coaches, let's say if you're a life coach. Then I have a column called Areas of Expertise. And so for my press kit, I say my areas of expertise are PR and marketing, networking, retail marketing, small business, public speaking. And I was actually a mentor for the Cherry Blair Foundation. So it's kind of your areas of expertise. And then, and this works also if you are pitching for podcasts as well as anybody else, what are your training topics? What are your keynote speeches that you can give, your keynote training and workshops? And it's all, broken down into bullet points. And so basically it's a document that people can go, oh, wow, okay, so that woman, she's a PR expert. She's an expert in PR marketing, networking, X, Y, and Z, and she can train people on how to do your own PR on a budget, or what makes a good small business story, or the secrets on how to get into the press. Then it's we also have Amanda has been featured in, so many clients can have that, but people when they first start off, they won't have a featured in, but it's a goal to have, so it's a great vision for you to have. And then obviously put in your social media links and also client testimonials, because that's really the most important thing, is the transformations that you've actually done. And also, if you are a product business, we have the same format, but we have 4 big boxes, so you can drop in your hero products there. I've even got a travel expert, and she runs a retreat over in Portugal, so she puts some beautiful big images of her retreat, and it's very visual, and journalists love it because it's just a very simple, fast document. Because just remember, journalists get so many emails, and 300 to 500 emails a day. If they need to click on something, they don't always like clicking on links. So the good thing is to put it actually in the body of your email, so they can literally see it and go, please see my press kit below. And they scroll down and they can see the PNG, the image of it. And then you can have a little link saying, click here to download, or you can even attach it as a compressed PDF file.
So would you recommend being proactive in sending it out, or waiting until someone has approached you and that as a response?
I love that question, because there are 2 approaches to PR. It's both reactive and proactive. So reactive is when your first ever foray into getting press coverage is to, at the time of print, at the time of going to print, Elon Musk doesn't own Twitter. So you head on over to Twitter and you go to the hashtag journo request. He hasn't killed that off yet. Let's hope he doesn't. Inshallah. Go over there. And then you can literally see what the latest journalist requests or call outs have been. Okay. Now, another killer tip is this. Don't go, when you go to Twitter, it goes top latest people groups. If naturally it comes up with the top, so it's the top journo request, which means it's the one which has been answered the most. You want to avoid those like the plague. You want to go straight to latest. So click on the button that says latest, and you'll literally see a journalist call out or request for information or people, experts, etc. And literally be 5 seconds ago, 2 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago. Okay, so you press the latest, and then you can see, what the call outs are. So just have a look at that, scroll through it. You might also then, if you are an expert in a certain field, whether it's medical, as I said, mental health, marketing, whatever your area of expertise is, put in hashtag journo request, and then put in your industry word like beauty or something like that. And then it will refine even further down, and then you'll be able to see which the latest call outs are. And then you'll go, right, that's really relevant. That's good. Okay. I wish I had my PR kit ready, so I'm going to prepare it. And my deadline is for next week, next Monday. I'm going to have my PR kit, my press kit ready. And I'm also going to have an email outline ready and waiting, so I can just top and tail it according to the call out. But the biggest tip here ever is, with your email heading, you've actually got to have a heading which is 5 to 9 words long only. And that is IP of Susie Walker. She told me that. She's the former editor-in-chief of Psychologist magazine. And it's such a good tip. And it's true, actually. And another tip I was given the other day when I spoke to a journalist, I'm reaching for a magazine here. So what you do is, when you're going to do your shopping, you go to Waitrose, Asda, Sainsbury's, Lidl, go to the magazine aisle, and then you'll see the magazines, and then you look at the front cover, and it says, soothe anxiety, make 2022 calmer with 6 new ways to tackle your fears. So I actually counted, I did a word count on all of these front of magazine headings: learn to cope with uncertainty, discover how to focus on the future, commit to taking positive action. So all of those, okay, they're all headings, and they're all 5 to 9 words long. And so when you're pitching to a journalist recently said, and she was actually a journalist from Psychologist, funnily enough, she said, think with that heading in mind, pretend that you're actually going to see it on the front of a magazine. Now, I'm talking magazines, yes, but all of this PR advice and tips, it works for TV, radio, podcasts, wherever you want to outreach to, because journalists, like I said earlier, they have so many emails, and they want to see, and maybe you can also put your keyword in the heading. And another tip also is and it's quite complicated to do this, but it is possible, is to try and summarize your whole story literally in that heading. So when it says here, learn to cope with uncertainty, that piece is going to be about learning to cope with uncertainty. So whatever you're going to be sending it, just try and make it really relevant to your pitch.
So yeah, it's always about making someone else's job really easy for them. If you put yourself into the shoes of that journalist, they don't care about you or your story until the point where your story is going to help them do their job better. So if you can make it easy for them to find a great story, then they're more likely to want to work with you as well, aren't they? And they're going to spot you.
Correct. Yes, and also another massive tip from another editor is put yourself into the head of the reader, viewer, or listener. So don't just think, oh, I'm amazing at PR, I'm going to, teach people how to do PR. You need to actually think about what is it in it for the listeners. So why will the listeners or the readers or the viewers benefit from reading a piece about 5 ways on how to do X, Y, and Z? So, and that's when you pitch it. You say, I think, or rather, I loved your article on X, Y, and Z. I'd like to, this is a common parlance, I'd like to move the story on. Have you thought about writing about X, Y, and Z? Because I think your listeners would, or I think your readers would really appreciate this, because I haven't seen it in the last 6 months of your magazine.
I'd imagine that would also be, if something hasn't also been covered generally, because everyone's always looking for something new or different, isn't it? Because a journalist is going to have more eyes on a piece that is genuinely helpful and a fresh take on it. So that's going to be attractive to them as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I do want to stress this. It's really, really, really important is journalists need you. They really need you. So, when I first started out, when I was running my knitwear business, that's how I got into PR, because I was having to pitch my berets and hats and, ponchos and all the rest of it. I used to import luxury alpaca knitwear from Peru. And I managed to get loads of press coverage. But you just need to make sure that it's going to be relevant to the person who's going to be wanting it. Why do they need to hear about my knitwear? Why? Because it's going to be helpful to the journalist, and because it's a new story, because I have breaking news about ethical sourcing. There's no child labour. It's good for the planet. They only use plant-based dyes. So always think about the consumer. Think about you. If you travel to London, you pick up a copy of the Metro or the Evening Standard, you open it up. Why do you focus in on one story? What is it that's attracted you to it? And so journalists need you to bring new stories.
Excellent. So we've been talking about some of the things you should be doing. What are some of the mistakes that you see people commonly making that stops them getting maybe the PR they deserve to get?
Well, a real common mistake is when people literally write an essay. They don't break it down. They just launch in, or, that's one common thing. They just write way too much. So I have said journalists are very busy. They're always working to deadline because they're breaking news. That's the nature of the business. So it needs to, so a mistake is writing an essay. So the success tip is to write a very short pitch. So it is, dear so-and-so, loved your article on X, Y, and Z, because then it shows that you actually have been following them. And another tip or another mistake is that people actually go in cold. They haven't even tried to develop a relationship with the person they're pitching to. So what you need to do is actually follow them, like what they're doing, share their articles, get on their radar. So when you're pitching, it's not some random person who's going to be using them. It's actually somebody who is, who's being thoughtful about their PR pitching. So another mistake is actually not being relevant and newsworthy. So just make sure that what you're pitching is going to be, it's either reacting to what's going on in the news currently, which means you actually need to tune in. So I'm a news addict. I literally, unfortunately, because I'm 51, I wake up at bloody 5 o'clock in the morning. So and if I wake up at 4, I put on the World Service. I love it. And then the amount of things I've actually heard and screenshot it, and then in the morning it's like, oh, was I listening to that? So try and listen to the news. And I know that, yes, it's very unpalatable at the moment, but it's not only talking about the war. It's not only talking about coronavirus, which it was, formerly. So think about things that are happening. What's gone on in the Oscars, when Will Smith punched that guy, Chris. There's so many things that you can react to within your area of expertise or your products if you're a product-based business. So yeah, don't be irrelevant. And another bugbear that, journalists tell me time and time again is, why are they pitching me pet products when I write about beauty for teenagers or something like that. Just be, so it's relevant all the way.
Absolutely. And I can really relate to that. I mean, I'm not a journalist, but obviously I run an online magazine. So I get a lot of pictures of people. And the classic one I'll see the same email templates used. They've obviously copied it from somewhere, and it will be, I'm an avid fan of, and then they literally will insert my URL. Like, they haven't even bothered to write it. And they're going, I'd love to write to you about bicycle maintenance or motorbike racing or something. Like, you've literally sent this out to thousands of online magazines, and you've just plonked my URL in, and you haven't thought about what my online magazine does, what my readers want, and you could tell it a mile off. And also using as well, I don't know if they exist in PR, but it's always really good to, even if someone's told you the structure of how to write an email, make it your own. Because if you use a template and someone is getting a lot of pictures, they will spot a template a mile off. It looks lazy, it looks unconsidered, and you are less likely to be sympathetically heard, I think, if you do those things.
Yeah, and there's another point, actually. Another journalist said this is, it says, Dear Hannah in black, and then the rest of your email, their email text is actually in blue. So I mean, I got an email yesterday from somebody, Dear Amanda, I loved your camping video, your camping pictures, keep up the brilliant work. And then they did the pitch, but the I loved your camping pictures was like in a very small font. So it's quite clearly that was the template where they need to drop it in. And I was thinking, what the hell? Where the hell have you seen camping videos? I mean, I do festivals, but that ain't relevant. Yeah, so just make sure, this is really important as well, is that you press the reformat button when you do a pitch. So all the font is totally the same family and colour and size and everything, because it's spot offable and mile off.
And I have to say, I mean, like, whenever I talk about advice and things not to do, there's rarely a mistake I haven't made myself as well. And I remember when we first launched Tanzani's Club, it's 9 years ago now, and I was doing, I thought all the key PR mistakes, I thought my story was infinitely interesting to everyone. Everyone would be queuing up to learn about this new website being launched. So I prepared my pitch, and I had the same pitch every magazine, but it would be, hi Amanda, I think Tesco magazine would be, or Glamour would be interested in this. And I tailored the name, and I forgot to change the magazine. So I sent it to every magazine saying, I was sending it to someone at Cosmopolitan saying, I'm sure Marie Claire would love this or whatever.
Oh, no.
And for many reasons, I didn't get any reply from anybody. I know now why.
But sometimes journalists have actually told me they've responded and said, excuse me. Yeah, so it's checking what you're sending out. And then I spoke to Amy Greer, who I think is now editor-in-chief of Cosmopolitan, and she said it's such a bugbear when people simply don't even read the publication. So, that is my biggest fat tip, is blooming well subscribe to it. Because number one, if it's print, you're supporting the print, great. Tune in. If you want to pitch to Hannah's podcast, listen to what she's, the interviews she does, the style and all the rest of it. Get to know it. If it's a newspaper, look at find out when they do those sections on body and soul, or, whatever area you're interested in. You've got to tune in. I mean, that's one of my biggest, if I had to say anything, well, no, I've got 3 massive tips. It's tune in, have a short headline, and, remember journalists need you, and be relevant. And then another thing about doing your own PR is another bugbear from journalists. Gosh, they've got a lot of bugbears, but at least I'm here to tell you what the hell not to do, is be fast to react. Because you see, they slag off PR agencies because they just say, great, we found somebody, Hannah Martin, she's launching this new magazine and it's going to help X, Y, and Z. Can you get Hannah for an interview? And then that PR agency, they're working on, not Hannah today, but they're working on Samantha and her PR. So then Hannah only gets responded to in 3 days' time, by which time the journalist has lost interest and already found another person to interview. So the good thing about being an entrepreneur doing your own PR is that you're hungry and you're keen and you're going to turn it around like that.
Excellent. So how long should it take to see results? And this, obviously, the podcast is about get rich slow, and it's all about doing things right for the long term. And I know we all love quick wins, and I'm sure it's possible to get some quick wins in PR, but I also know with things like PR and marketing, it's a long game, isn't it? So how long should people sort of expect to keep doing it before they get results? And at what point, if they don't get results, should they maybe think it's not just it's going to take a long time, but maybe I'm getting it wrong.
Yes, I mean, so I believe strongly this is the case. It can take from minutes to months. So you can see go to hashtag journey request on Twitter and see a great call out, but you have to reply snappily, succinctly, and compellingly, and then they might actually ask you and say, oh my goodness. So so you might have a real quick win. But the reality is, if you really are going to go about it properly, so when you do take on a PR agency, and in the past I went through 3 of them when I was running my knitwear business, because I got loads of press coverage. I thought, wow, this is easy. And I've got 2 young toddlers, and I was having to rush around the country doing pop-up shops everywhere. I did 125 pop-up shops. I thought, oh my God, it needs to be easier than this to try and get publicity. So I took on 3 PR agencies, and every single agency said to me, bear in mind, we can only, not even guarantee, number one, we don't guarantee results, but you're going to start seeing stuff only after 6 months, because we need to seed the press, we need to do this. I love to disrupt and to turn around an industry, and it's literally, I believe that you can get press coverage within a month. Okay. And, but that is having all those elements in, doing the stuff which I've just told you to do or suggested that you do. But then if it's not hitting, is you need to switch the pitch. There is another word. So, just switch it up. Now, in the past, when I was doing my PR for the knitwear business, I always used to call up the journalists. Now, journalists are in 2 minds about whether they want to be called up or not. For me, it's great to call, because you get you chat to somebody and then they remember you, but you've got to get over that 30-second hump of interest. So they're like this, tapping away at the computer. Hi, it's Amanda. And then you go, whoom, you go for the, you say, oh, have you got 2 minutes to spare? That's good, because they don't want to be on the phone for hours. Anyway, but you speak to them. And then you say, oh, I'd like to tell you about my client X, Y, and Z. So if it's not hitting, but I know that she's X, Y, and Y. And they go, oh my goodness, that's really interesting. Can you send in a press release? Okay. So you have got to be prepared to switch the pitch. So if you're just not making phone calls, because you see, a lot of people are now doing hybrid working and working from home. You've got to get through their email. If those emails aren't landing, switch up. And switch it around, ask somebody else, why is it? Ask your clients why they use your products and services. Can I have a testimonial? And, ask them for testimonials. And it's like, oh my God, I decided to work with Hannah because da-da-da-da. And you might never have thought of that, but that da-da-da-da might actually be the new heading for your new pitch to the journalist. So be prepared to switch your pitch.
Excellent. So what's been your biggest PR win over all the years?
So I had a client.
Yes. So over all the years, sorry, I was talking over you.
Yeah, I mean, a personal PR win was when I was invited on LBC Radio with Emma Jones, who runs Enterprise Nation, because I just won a PR award, whoop, whoop, in 2018. So she invited me to come and speak, and give some PR tips. And then it was on LBC, and then I was literally on it for 5 minutes. And then they said, oh, what's your website? So I managed to name drop the website. So guys, whenever you're pitching, always try to do that. And they might bash you down and say, oh, no, it's not an advert. Don't ask, don't get. So please always try and do that. But then I had this woman subscribe to my website, and it turned out to be a £4,000 client win, which was incredible. She was based in Sweden. She heard me speaking, thought I like the sound of her. I like her tips. I'm going to now take her on board. And then she flew me out to Malmö, because she was opening up a gallery there. And it's like, oh my God, you speak for 5 minutes and you can get a gig worth 4K. Incredible. So that's that. And I'm not only going to talk in financials, okay? But I want to give you my big fat win. But firstly, getting into the press. And again, this is for me back in my knitwear days when I was a humble, running the business on a shoestring with 2 squabbling children and all the rest of it. What a confidence booster. Yeah, it was life-changing that a journalist, liked my berets and featured them in The Independent. Then I was getting orders, which meant I didn't have to do these awful pop-up shops anymore. But just to have somebody talking about you in a newspaper, it's like, wow. Then another confidence booster is you then share it. By the way, never share screenshots of the publication, just share the link. Or just say, I'm so thrilled to have been featured in Heat magazine or Grazia or whatever. But then you share that with your audience, your customers, your clients, you share it on social media. And again, it's another confidence booster. So yeah, so big wins are the 4K client for 5 minutes speaking, confidence. And it's like, oh my God, what I'm doing is valuable. You know, it's kind of like an affirmation. But then my biggest win was this guy I was working with. He sorts out contracts, dodgy contracts with schools, charities and small businesses when they have photocopy machines and they get tied into these awful loophole-ridden contracts, which can see people lose their businesses as a result of it. So we did an investigative journalism piece. He was a whistleblower. He had a full page piece in the Mirror, and it was Simon Penman or Andrew Penman, I think he was the journalist at the time. So I pitched him and I said, did you know that how many schools are having to, you know, fork out X, Y, and Z about this? Anyway, whatever. To cut a long story short, it turned out he had £210,000 worth of business. This guy was offered a job by his competitor. Sorry, not the competitor, by the enemy. Okay, the enemy then employed him to clean up the joint. And then he actually saved, as a result of this, 1.7 million. He managed to save charities, small businesses and churches, whatever. Yeah, that amount of money, because then people weren't going to be sucked into that awful contract. So that's a major win. It's like a feel-good factor on all angles.
That's a really lovely one as well, because obviously it was a personal win for him, like financially, but also it was an ethical win because he was able to do more good as a result. Can I just briefly take you? So you mentioned, this is really important, about not screenshotting and sharing. Is there a legal reason for that? Why you can't, if you are in the media, can you not share a photo of that?
Yeah, you'd be breaching copyright. Okay. So just don't do it. Just don't do it. Literally, you just, you know, and it's really tempting to take a top shot of the piece that you've been featured in. You just have to avoid doing that. You can only do that if you've actually got the publisher's permission, written permission. Okay, so just don't be breaching copyright. But you can put on your website, if you get permission to get their logo, and just go through, you know, as featured in X, Y, and Z, fabulous, good housekeeping, blah blah blah, and that's how people do it. Or another great way. And there's a really good example if you go to my website, but, you know, we're not going to be doing that right now. But, you know, I've got a media page, and all my clients who know how to do this, they've literally done it. So if you've been featured in Huffington Post or wherever, you just literally grab the link. So you've got a media page and it says, you know, Hannah Martin Press Centre, you know, and then it goes, here's my media, here's my small bio. I'm thrilled to have been featured in, and then you have a picture of you with the interview or whatever, and then you just have a direct link, which then directly takes you to HuffPost, takes you to The Guardian, takes you to The Times and everything like that. That's the legal way to do it.
Excellent. Thank you. So I'm going to take you all the way from your amazing PR successes to ask you, what are your PR failures? Have you had any? And what are they?
Of course I've had them. Oh my God. I mean, I can still remember it as if it was yesterday when I got blacklisted by a journalist, because it was in the days before I'd actually formulated my 7 steps on how to get into the press, and I hadn't got a campaign spreadsheet, which is really important. So I used to go into WH Smith's in Colchester with my screaming children, stand at the aisles, and they'd be picking off the pens and causing havoc. And I'd be there going, shush, children. And I'd be buying all the magazines I really wanted to get into for my knitwear, because I was competing with the likes of Brora, Spirit of the Andes and Proving Connection, etc. So I kind of had to get all those like high posh magazines. Anyway, so there was one publication I was desperate to get into. Oh my God, this is going to be a game changer. If I get into this one, this is going to, change the world, change my life, this, that, and the other. So you go in a magazine, you can see the contact details. I can't remember what it's called. Is it on the masthead? Anyway, the contact section. And I just used to like draw on it and write on it. And I hadn't actually ticked or put a cross by the woman's name. She was like the stylist. So to get into bed with a stylist is brilliant, because then she'll then order your stuff and reorder it for future shoots. And she goes, Amanda, can you just stop calling me? You've already called me now 7 times. Just never, ever call me again. I thought, oh my God, how embarrassing, because I'd gone through it and I was calling. Oh my God, it was just so embarrassing. So yeah, that's why you always need to keep note of who you've called and what their feedback is. So that's one fail. And then another PR fail, but it's kind of turned into my dinner party teaching type thing, is, again, I was running the knitwear business on a shoestring. I had no money. My maternity pay had all run out. I was trying to, I was raising a young family with my husband who'd just got a new job, so funds weren't really there. And I scouted a model on the street to do the photo shoot. So she was great. Then I scouted another woman, and I can't remember how we got her. I think she was a friend of the photographer. So, it was such a low rent photo shoot. They all did their own makeup, but I had a great venue, it was a lovely countryside manor and all the rest of it. So, we did all that, produced the catalogue, or the lookbook it's called. And then I sent it off to a woman, a journalist, a key journalist. I said, have you received it? She goes, Amanda, did they do their own hair and makeup? It looks so unprofessional. Of course, we would never think about featuring you. Oh my God, can you imagine how upsetting that was? When you've done blood, sweat and tears, you've literally taken your kids, your babies to Peru, your ex-husband's house to stay with the mother-in-law. That's another story. While you've then gone off to Arequipa to go into the mountains of where the alpacas are based, and you've found the material, you've sourced the factory, you've imported it, you've paid VAT, which is awful, the import, the whole nightmare to import stuff. Oh my God. Anyway, that's another story. And then to have the woman just slag it off and think, oh my God. Anyway, so what I did when she was rude about the photo shoot, I went upstairs, and I'm very undomesticated, and there's a basket of clothes to be ironed on the bed. So I just folded it. It was like my calm down therapy to fold clothing. And I thought, F you. Yeah. So I went down, made another phone call to somebody else, to another journalist, and goes, oh, I love it. Can you send in high-res images? So what one person thought was shit, another person thought was brilliant. And then I got featured, and I got some orders as a result of it. So, people also have bad days. So she was just having a really bad day.
Excellent. And I love your the thing about doing ironing. I do, because we all in business, we always get bad news. It's a roller coaster. I'm sure even Richard Branson has days when he gets told no. And I do things like invoicing. It's the business equivalent of that. It's something where you have to think. There's no creativity involved, and you also feel satisfied because it's just a job you hate. The job you hate, and it's done. So yes, exactly. So yeah, yours is ironing, mine is invoicing.
Or hoovering the floor now. That's my latest thing.
Yes. Aggressively hoovering.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you. What I would love to kind of end on is, you've given so many tips. I'm not quite sure what you're going to add, but what are your key tips to be successful in PR? If someone is listening and they're starting out, or they've been trying their own PR and they've not succeeding, what are your top tips?
I think these days, with print going how it is going, many people are saying it's so important to have a good quality photo. So when you do your pitch, but don't send it as, I keep saying high res, that means high resolution. So let's say don't send a photo with your pitch, which is 5 megabytes big. It just needs to be a small one. And then they can see, because you see, they no longer have the budget. I was at an event the other day, and I met the newspaper journalist, and I said, well, where's Steve, the photographer? And he doesn't work here anymore. So the more images that when you're pitching, you can send, not the more images, but the good quality ones, then you'll stand a really, really high chance of being picked, being selected. And I've got one other tip, which you have to be quite brazen and brave to do this. And again, it's for another, because I do pitch clinics once a month. So I always ask my journalists, I pick leading journalists, and I say, please, can you give 5 tips? So I've, learned these over all the years. This is quite an out there one. Hannah, are you going to be brave to do this?
I don't know. I'm not going to commit until I've heard it.
Okay. So basically you have to get ready 7 identical emails, right? Your pitch. So it's let's say I'm pitching to psychologists, and Brené Brown says, don't compare yourself to anybody. So I'm going to say, don't compare yourself to no one. Okay, that's going to be my email pitch heading. And then I've got my email, my pitch is all in there. It's got photographs, it's got my press kit, it's got everything else. You literally go press send 7 times. Boom, 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 boom. So then the editor is then going to have 7 identical emails. So then they're going to think, hold up, I've got to open up this. Why have they bombarded me? So somebody, a friend / client, did this the other day, and bingo, she's in. She's going to be featured.
Excellent.
It works, but not everybody likes it. I have asked another journalist, they said, don't ever do that to me. So, it's, you have to
I was
see
going
what
to
you wanna
say,
do.
it's a bit of a Marmite approach, because they might just be thinking, oh, this person's such an idiot, they've just sent it to me 7 times.
Yeah. So it really is. It's basically take it with a pinch of salt. Do you know what? I would do it if I've been trying and trying to pitch to somebody and they just never pay attention to me. I guess
it's quite good as a last ditch resort, because
maybe make it as your last ditch.
Because if they've ignored your good pitches, then maybe that's the thing to try, because they don't listen to you anyway.
No, but have you heard of ugly marketing?
No.
So it's like you go along the street and you'll see A boards, and there's one in Colchester here, and it's so ugly, but you look at it because it's so goddamn ugly. It's like really nasty, big, fat, black paint, ink, marker. It's got a horrible picture. It's like, stop snoring now. And I went in, when I first was working, as a marketing consultant, I said, your board's very ugly. And he goes, yeah, that really brings in clients. Oh my God, people stop and stop. And I've heard about it in the real estate over in Australia. That's where I first heard about it. I think it's a bloke called Rick Otten or something like that. And you've had flyers come through the door, and it looks like a Post-it note, so it's handwritten. So I think sending it 7 times is your ugly PR pitch, which might get the result.
Well, like I say, if you've got nothing left to lose, then doesn't matter. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. If people want to come and find you, where can they do that?
They can go to my website. Thank you for asking, and it's simply called amandapr.com.
Excellent. Nice and very Ron Seal name.
Yeah. Yes.
Well,
Or my social media handles, even more Ron Seal, is this. It's at Amanda PR Expert.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I have learnt lots, and I'm sure everyone else will. And I look forward to seeing lots of our listeners in the press very soon. Thank you.
Yes, I can't wait. Well, Hannah, thank you so much for the opportunity.